This episode of the Paddy Wagon is brought to you by Mortal Triumph. Mortal Triumph isn't just a clothing brand, it's a lifestyle. Death is the only finish line, and until then, the only thing that matters is how hard you push, how much you sacrifice, and what you leave behind. Be sure to visit mortaltriumph.com and check out the most comfortable shirt I guarantee you will ever wear. Don't forget to use Paddy Wagon 10 at checkout for 10% off your purchase. Mortal Triumph, at the end of the day, the work is the gift. Hey everybody, pull up a seat. I have just topped off my glass. Why don't you grab your favorite beverage and join me? This is the Paddy Wagon. Welcome back to the Paddy Wagon, everybody. Here for another exciting episode. Today we are joined by Police Officer John Masters, who is the author of a book detailing something we hear a lot about now. You know, he's going to talk about his experiences in policing, but specifically dealing with things like corruption. Be sure to check out John's book, Blue Line Rogue, Corruption in Georgia. Officer Masters, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I hope that the introduction was okay. I thought we could just get right to the point with why we're here. I think it's an interesting topic. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. I definitely, I think that we appreciate what you're doing. And because at the end of the day, I think when we talk about serving and, to serve and protect, I think that a lot of what you're doing here is just that, right? You're getting this message out and, sharing your stories. And I think it's just good for people to kind of hear some behind the scenes stuff. So, again, man, we appreciate it here.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I do want to make one caveat.
Sure.
This is not the norm, what we're about to talk about. This is the exception, not the rule. And I don't want people to look at this as, oh, they're all like this. No, this is a few.
So I appreciate that. And the reason I say that is I've got friends in law enforcement, and I look at it like this, man. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. It doesn't matter where you come from, who you are, what you do, who you vote for. There are assholes in every crowd. There are racist accountants. There are librarians who I'm sure have murdered people. There are good police officers, bad police officers. And I truly believe that the majority of us are so similar that it's disgusting. I think the bad are so outnumbered by the good people on this planet. And I'm with you. This is not to talk about police officers as a whole, or police departments, or policing as a whole. But listen, I mean, like anything else, there's always ways to make things better. And I think in order to make things better, you need to acknowledge some of the things that are wrong. So, listen, anyone that's listening to this, exactly what this guy said here. This is a small subset of people that are out there to do a very tough job, a very sometimes not rewarding, I'm sure. I'm sure you have a lot of obscenities and nasty things shouted at you, and all the stuff that we hear about, we read about, and the reality of is just there's just a few bad apples out there, right?
Yeah, and I think if people look at it statistically, you're looking at less than 0.5% of law enforcement misfits the badge. And it sounds like a small number, but there's less than 1 million cops in the United States. So we're only talking about a few thousand guys over the course of 200 years that go off the deep end. And people tend to judge the entire profession with that. And the reality is the majority of us out there honestly believe that our job is to, while enforcing the law, protect the rights of the people we're enforcing the law on, even criminals. And
Yeah.
I think that gets lost a lot, especially today.
Yeah. But, innocent until proven guilty. And, even when you have bad interactions with people, you've got to treat them with that. You can know what you saw, you know what you know. But at the end of the day, there's a court that's going to decide all that. You just need to do your job the right way. Not that I'm telling you how to do your job. It's just a statement I'm making. And certainly we appreciate that you do that. I've always had really positive interactions with police officers. Teach my kids to have positive interactions with everybody, but especially police officers. Man, you guys have a tough job, and I think it's just like if you guys respect what you do, which you clearly do, and people respect you, and you've just got a mutual respect for each other. I think that some of these things can change. Again, like I said, it's not a lot, but it's enough to have news stories about it, and it's enough to twist and manipulate that story to be any narrative that anyone wants. You take one bad police officer and you tell a story the certain way, and you're like, "Hey, did you hear what all those police officers did?" And you're like, "No, man, that was one guy that did that." So,
but you just hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of I don't want to throw this out as a blanket statement, but I think a lot of us have a tendency to take the job personally, and I think sometimes we forget none of this is personal. We're just the middlemen. We're delivering to the court system, and it's up to the courts.
Yep.
And I think sometimes we even forget it. We take stuff personal. It's like we're not here to enact vengeance for a victim. We're here to provide victims with resources and remove the problem from the victim.
Yep.
Typically, that means taking the problem to jail.
Hey, if that's where it deserves to be, then so be it, right? You said you don't drink, so welcome to the Paddy Wagon. I do here. I poured myself a nice Murphy's Irish Stout today. What are you drinking, if anything?
Herbal tea.
Herbal tea. I have a lot of tea drinkers on this show. I can't do it, man. What is it? What kind of tea?
It's peach mixed with something else. I think it's some type of wild berry. So I stopped drinking as a young adult.
Smart move.
Some of my experiences in the military, just people go, oh, maybe it wasn't anything crazy. Just it just wasn't for me anymore. I found other ways of having fun, and but not to knock it. I mean, I grew up with Canadian Club and John Molson.
There you go. There you go.
So I grew up with rye whiskey. It was, but I just I think a lot of it as I witnessed and saw things, and then began to experience things in law enforcement from the military, and then coming into law enforcement, the crashes that I would work and the drunk drivers that I constantly interacted with, I think it just became a thing where it's like, nah, I'm seeing this liquid ruin people's lives, and so I just decided to stop.
Listen, other than a fun conversation every now and then, or maybe you loosen up and talk with somebody you normally wouldn't, there's not many situations where alcohol provides anything positive, right?
Yeah, and that's what I saw is, it was a young man, I'm going to a military ball, and hey, we're hanging out, cool, great, and then one of my friends got behind the wheel, and then everything he risked, it all ended in the blink of an eye because he couldn't make the decision to stay in the hotel that night and had to drive back to base. It's like, whoa, and that kind of that started me kind of waking up to, well, why did he lose control? Why couldn't he not? And when I saw what it did to his life and what it did to his friends and his family, I was a young man, and and then when I became a police officer, and I worked unbelievable crashes, and I just went, this is all because someone can't control themselves.
Yeah. You've got stories I'm sure you don't even like to talk about. I had a first responder on the show before, very nice gentleman named Colton, he's actually got a great podcast, and he'll have a lot of interesting guests on, but he was just like, you know what? I don't want to talk about the worst experience I ever had. I didn't ask, but you just know that sometimes when you do certain things, people see things that it's just best to leave it alone. Um, things
Right.
they put guys in counseling, they ruin people's lives. It can affect marriages. It can affect friendships, relationships with your kids or your parents. You don't know how you're going to react when you deal with some sort of PTSD that, again, comes from a traffic accident. I mean, I have heard of horrific accidents. Now, I have heard of them. You have seen them. So,
It's horrible. Like for me, when I have to work it, I have to work the wreck, and it's a fatality. And one of the fatalities is a child, and the drunk driver is fine.
that's got
He
to be
survived the wreck,
infuriating.
and it's not something I'm just going to openly talk about. But the first time I worked a fatality, and a child was ejected from the vehicle, and the drunk was standing around walking around the scene. I'm going,
Something's not fair here.
that's what pushed me in the direction that I chose in law enforcement, into the specialties I chose, and why I picked those specialties, why I picked becoming a DUI cop, doing traffic interdiction, looking for drugs, looking for guns, looking for impaired drivers, because I saw what the substances that are being sold, either legally or illegally, are doing to the community at large in the United States. I mean,
Yeah.
I hear people talk about one little thing, and they say, "Oh, this thing, it's killing people." Do you want to know what DUIs do every year? Because
Way more than anything else.
that's wiping out whole generations. Like, no, nobody wants to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Because, and I typically find, when I go to mad conferences, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, one of the things I'll hear from some of the lawyers as they're talking about um, prosecuting DUIs, recognizing DUIs, and even some of the mothers themselves, the members of MAD. One of the things they'll say is, people think that MAD is against alcohol, like they're teetotalers, and they're not. What they're saying is, if you have so little self-control that you can't get behind the wheel sober, and it's kind of presented as almost a mental problem. And I have seen people who will get arrested for DUI. They'll go to the jail, and then 14 hours later, they're walking out of jail, and they are shaking as they're withdrawing.
I
And the
believe it.
first thing they do is have a beer, and then they're rock solid again. And I'm like, what? Uh, and then, I begin to see it, and I'm realizing, okay, this is a small sliver of the population that is engaging in this kind of behavior, but the destruction they do. And it's not alcohol, and that's the crazy part. It's um, people think, oh, drunk driving, it's alcohol. No, I would say right now about 80% DUIs are drugs, not alcohol.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I keep a DUI log,
I never would have guessed that.
and I'm about 80%. My DUIs are drugs, and when the blood work comes back, I'm confirming what I saw on the road. My three biggest drugs are cannabis,
Okay.
ecstasy. I don't know how those do not mix together. So those are,
The two, okay, hold on. I want to make, so you're saying if I was smoking marijuana
and then
and
taking
then took
ecstasy.
ecstasy, those two don't go together like that.
Those are not, yeah.
Okay.
But the big three that I see are cannabis, ecstasy, and meth.
I think people drive better. Okay, not better. This this is not going to land well with a police officer. I would feel that somebody stoned would potentially drive slower and like hands it 10 and 2 because of
So
paranoia. Is that
they typically, what I have found, and I have the crime lab results from blood work, because I always ask for blood. I want to know what's in their system right at the moment. And our state has some case law that really pushes. You need to just ask for blood. Don't worry about breath. Don't worry about anything else. Just
can
ask
I
for
can I
blood.
say no to either one of those?
You can. Um,
But you'll get them.
So for me, if you have not been involved in a collision, I am not going to take out a search warrant for your blood.
Okay.
That's just something I do. Um, the implied consent. So every state has implied consent laws. Um, the implied consent laws in my state are such that if you don't want to do the test, that's fine. You're gonna lose your driver license. They're gonna suspend it. Some of the other states, they have some barriers,
Okay.
some hoops to jump through. I know Arizona and California do the interlock system. Um, I know Alaska has some other additional rules, but eventually, if you don't cooperate with you were given a driver license, you need to comply with these state administered chemical tests. You're gonna lose your driver license. So if someone refuses, cool.
You're going to lose
Um,
your license either way.
you
So
yeah, it'd have been better to do the test and have a better chance of saving your license. But hey, some street lawyer told you to not do any tests, and so cool.
I saw on Instagram I can say and do whatever I want. You've got to love those. Those are my personal favorites where it's like, you know, these people don't know what they're talking about. Like this is like just
They don't.
101. Like that just doesn't even sound right from the door. Which it's funny because I had a couple questions about things like that we'll get into. But is that the term you use? Street lawyers?
I call them street lawyers. I don't know what else to call them, but I've actually seen them in action. Oh no, you don't have to do that blood test. I'm going, dude, you're gonna lose your license. But statistically, the blood test I do get results on, it's about 80% narcotics,
How do
not
people on
alcohol.
meth drive? That doesn't seem like a good.
Um,
Like you'd pull them over and they're eating the steering wheel. Like that
it,
just
it,
seems like a bizarre interaction.
meth users are very bizarre when they're behind the wheel. They're very skittery. That's a Midwestern word. Sorry, they're
I knew what you
very,
meant.
yeah. They're very wonky. No, that's another Midwestern word.
Nope, we're good with wonky, man.
I
I'm
don't
like
know.
borderline Midwest. I'm in
Yeah,
Pittsburgh, so I
I
know
don't
these
know. Yeah, I don't know how to describe them.
janky, wonky.
Yeah, like how would a New Yorker describe it? Oh, I
Get a
know
lot
how
of F words in there. That's how they describe it.
a New Yorker would tell you someone on meth looks like someone from New Jersey.
Or someone from Boston. This is a fucking meth guy from Boston.
Yeah, this guy's on meth. How do you know he's dropping his R's? But meth users stick out like sore thumbs. Cannabis users is kind of the weirdest thing, but statistically, if I look at my DUI log, most of my cannabis users are speeding.
Wow, man.
Their brain is trying to catch up with the sense of speed because they're stoned. It's kind of like George Carlin, right? They're the hippy tippy weather man with all the hippy tippy weather, man.
I
So
feel like I
they're,
would drive super slow if I
and
was stoned.
but they in their brain is trying to catch up because they're stoned, so they're not getting the sense of speed. So in order to achieve the sense of speed, a lot of my cannabis users are doing like 20, 30 over the limit.
Wow, okay.
And so because of that, and I'll be honest with you, I won't even turn my lights on until you're 15 over because I'm
Ah,
looking for an impaired driver. Sober people usually stay below 15 miles over the speed limit. After 15 over is when I start finding impaired drivers. At 20 over, it's insane. And I'll walk up there and hey, how we doing? What's going on? And the look on their face, I'm like, yeah, they don't even know they were speeding. And I'll show them the laser, I'll show them the radar, and they're going, man, I was going 70 and a 35. What? And their mind is just blown, like they've just discovered the universe, and they're just, yeah, right, because their sense of speed isn't caught up, and
that's
it's
interesting.
it's interesting to see them do fields. Heavy cannabis users crawl. Everything is slow to them.
Just
It,
stopping in the middle of the line to eat a Twinkie.
I
Like,
have literally had them stop in the middle of the walk and turn, literally stop, look at me, and go, "What am I doing?" They are that baked, and they
I
think,
love
well,
it.
I smoked 2 hours ago, I'm good to go. No, it takes 12 hours to metabolize. It doesn't metabolize the way alcohol does. The only thing that works with cannabis is time. There's no coffee. There's no amount of water you can drink. No, time.
Oh man, what made you want to be a cop?
There was a lot of things that happened. Um, some of them, personal reasons. I saw crime occur that affected me personally.
Okay.
Um, coming out of the military, I saw government as a good thing. Government employment was a good thing. Um, Government is good. Government can't be wrong. Government would never lie. Um, yeah, that naivety got shed very quickly.
Yeah, really.
I thought, oh no, 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 my government would never lie
They
to
would
me.
never do this to me. They're
They
always
would.
honest.
No, I'd never imagined that my government would lie to me. I told that to my father, and um, my dad and my uncles, they were all Vietnam era, and they were Air Force, and they just laughed when I said that. Oh no, I'm joining the Army, and my government would never lie to me. They're going, well, good luck with that. We'll see you in a couple of years. I came back going, they lied.
Get back to me on that one. Let me know how that worked out.
Man, I came back from one of my tours, and I told my dad, man, they lied. He's going, welcome to adulthood.
All right, so you got some personal reasons you become a police officer. How long have you been a police officer?
Let's see, I started in 2018. So we're coming up on we're going over 8 years now.
Okay.
I started out in a jail, and that's a lot of people out there don't realize starting out in the jail is really really good. And that was the advice I got, was go spend a year in the jail, work in the jail before you go out on the street. So I was working at a sheriff's office in a very large facility. It was well over 1,200 beds. To run from one side of the facility to the other was a mile.
Oh wow. Okay.
It was a large facility. We would actually do our PT tests around the facility, because a full lap around the facility brought to us 2 miles.
Wow.
It was a
My
large.
goodness. So okay. So let me work that. A lot of my things that I know or I see or whatever, it's going to sound funny, or maybe it isn't. But you probably get this sometimes. Is like from watching Cops or watching, live PD, things like that. Okay.
Yeah, I can't stand that show.
Oh,
I'm sorry, but I can't.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
There's cops out there that love that show, and they watch it, and they're like, oh man, it's so cool. I'm like, this is so fake. This is so stitched together. Like, this is not how I do conduct any kind of business. Like, I do not talk to people like this at all. Like,
well, everyone's different when a camera's on you. It's like there's a camera crew following me. You're gonna act a certain way, but like I guess my point with that is like, so you worked at the jail. So when I think of working at the jail, and I take one of these shows, for example, or even you, okay, you've got somebody in the back of your car. That person has a DUI that failed a sobriety checkpoint. You take them to the jail, you get them out, you walk them in, and then they're processed. Correct? Am I using that term right?
Yeah, they're booked and fingerprinted, but
Booked and
processed.
fingerprinted. Is that what you did?
At first, I worked in a housing pod, and then I went to intake, where I booked and fingerprinted. While at intake, somehow, and I do not know how this happened, the intake commander, she really, really, really liked me. And she thought I would be good to become a classification officer. And so I became a classification officer. And part of being a classification officer means you have to go through their criminal history. And I quickly discovered I did not like being a classification officer, because you have to deal with sex offenders as a classification officer. And I couldn't get the victim out of my mind.
That's
I
fair.
just couldn't do it. So I had to tell her, I can't be a classification officer. I mean, I'll classify at night if you need it, but I don't want to do this. And she asked me why. I said, I can't get the victims out of my mind when I'm dealing with the sex offenders. This is
So
she goes,
classification. Okay, so sorry. Walk me through this.
Yeah, I jumped a little bit. Classification: when you come into the jail and someone is arrested, we classify them based on what their risk is.
Severity, like risk of what?
What their current charges is, what their previous charges is. Do they have pending felonies? Do they have convictions of felonies? What kind of convictions are they? Convictions of, like, look, this is just a serial shoplifter, versus Okay, this is sex offender with a third DUI in 3 months. Cool. We are not going to general population. We need to contain you safely.
Okay.
And these are extremes here, but we're
Well,
taking.
that answers the question, though. So that's definitely good because, when I'm thinking classify, is this somebody who's going to see a bond and be bailed out, or does the judge decide that?
That's part of it is determining very quickly. Are you walking in with a bond? Are your charges bondable now, or do you need to see a judge? So it all kind of depends. But I didn't like doing that, and I went to that captain, and I told her I can't do this, and she asked why, and I said I can't get the victims out of my mind,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, I just can't work with sex offenders. And um, so I ended up going over back to the other side of intake, and I would
Okay.
do booking, I would do fingerprinting, I would do property, I would do everything but classification. I would even do transports. I would 2 o'clock in the morning, man, I'd drive people to the prison. That's fine. I just couldn't. I didn't want to know their history,
Okay. That's
and
fair.
because it bothered me. But she thought I'd be good at it, so I got training that other officers ordinarily would not have gotten, which kind of pumped me into when I did go out to the street as a street cop. Um, I had a little bit more access to information that normal rookies didn't have because of my time in the jail. A lot of the people I had dealt with in the jail, I found I was dealing with out on the street. So I already knew what they were into, how they acted, what who was going to run, who wasn't. So I kind of had a leg up, and it in the jail you have no gun, you have no taser. I think the jail now that I worked in now has tasers, but
Okay.
at the time I was there, I had nothing but a can of OC spray. So it really came down to when it's you versus 96 people in a pod, you are not going to fight your way out of that.
Yeah,
So
that's the odds are not in your favor.
absolutely, yeah, that's the Hunger Games on steroids.
Okay.
Um, so what I learned to do very quickly was to watch. And what I found was my time, and this is why I would recommend anyone go work in the jail. My time in the jail, especially when I worked in the maximum security pods or the disciplinary pods, um, which disciplinary pods are not what people think they are. They think they're isolation. No, at least not that jail. Disciplinary pods were a physical separation from general population, but there was still more than one person in the room. It was just, look, you're not following the rules here, so we have a special place for you to go where you're only going to come out on the floor by yourself or with another person because you can't be on the floor with 96 other people because you can't get along well. Um, People think discipline means isolate. There was no at the jail I worked at. There was absolutely no isolation. I never saw it. So if I've heard people who used to work at that jail say that there were isolation pods, they don't know what they're talking about. And I have friends who still work at that jail. There are no isolation pods at that jail. So
Okay.
the solitary, no, jail is not prison, and a lot of people don't know the difference.
Jail's just temporary. Prison is like you're going
Yes,
to be here for a little
you're
bit.
going to be here for a while. Yeah, jail is you're either you're convicted for less than a year. At least is in my state, you're convicted for less than a year, or you're pending charges and you're in trial.
Okay.
But I got to sit there and interact with people who had done things. So you have people who are convicted waiting to go to prison. Okay, so great. I have a convicted murderer. I got to sit there and watch him and listen to him and talk to him and interact with him. That really made me, when I went out on the street, a much better, more sound, reasonable street cop than I think a rookie straight out of the academy. To where I was more confident talking to someone. Where if I had been a rookie straight out of the academy, I think somebody would have had to break me out of my shell. Where a year in the jail brought me out of that shell.
Okay.
And
So
then
that's
being
a
on this,
coveted job, that being in the jail.
for me, it was. I definitely enjoyed. Um, the mentorship I had from the intake commander that I had and the sergeant that I was working under. They really, really, really emphasized to me the idea of everyone has worth and value. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. And that's how we're going to start until you show me otherwise. So I came out of the jail going out on the street with I treat people how I find them, not based on their past history.
Okay.
So if you're calm, chill, and cool, great. I don't care if you were convicted for murder 30 years ago. You've shown no aggression
Be
with
cool
me
with me, and
here.
we're cool. We're just chatting, right?
Right. So 90% of the people I take to jail go with the handcuffs in front.
Oh, interesting.
And
I didn't know there. I didn't know you had the option.
At some of the agencies I worked at, the option was given.
Okay.
I have worked at an agency where no, everyone went with the cuffs in the rear, and it always bothered me. If they're calm, chill, and cool, I dealt with a guy today. He had failure to appears. He had to go to jail. And we talked. I had him in my front seat. He was sat in my front passenger seat while we talked, and I did a front seat interview with him, and that blows people's minds. Well, you bad guys in your front seat? He's a human being. I took the extra 5 seconds. He went to jail with no problem. We're talking 5 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, I said, so you got to go to jail. So if you stay calm, chill, and cool, I'll stay calm, chill, and cool. I just need to bring your hands in front here. And he just put them up.
It's when you feel like you're trusted. This
I give
person
him a
trusts me.
chance.
This person's not judging me. People generally are like that.
Yeah, and 99% of the time, most people accept that and go, wow, this guy is going to do his job, but it's clearly not personal. I don't introduce myself as Officer Robot. When I walk into the car, hey, my name's John. They're going to find out what my name is anyways. I hear cops say, oh, don't tell them your first name. Well, it's going to be, if you take him to jail, it's going to be on all the paperwork. So what?
Yeah.
What? If you get called to court, they're going to find out what. No. When I walk up to a car, I tell them what my name is. My name is John, not officer. My family's name doesn't matter. My name is John. And the reason for the stop. We just get it all out of the way. Hey, the reason I'm stopping you is because of whatever, whatever, whatever. Do you have your driver license? And then depending on where it goes from there, like this guy with the suspended license. Yeah, I had him in my front passenger seat, and we were just talking about the suspensions and why these suspensions were on there. And I got a DUI in Illinois, okay, well, and we're talking about this, and we're going through the history. And it's like, okay, it took all of 5 minutes to put him in handcuffs, and he went smooth and easy. And there was no upset, there was no crazy, his girlfriend came and got the car, and she was really happy I didn't tow it, and he went to jail real easy. And that's 99% of the people that I interact with. I'm able to. I hear people call it de-escalation.
Now, do you feel the way you treat people? Do you think that if you were another officer, maybe somebody who's hot-headed or somebody who doesn't do these things, do you feel that percentage then drops because, your guard's up, their guard's up?
I would agree with that, yes.
Okay. Interesting.
I think one of the things I tell newer officers when they ask me how do I get such compliance so easily, just be nice, man. Just be nice. The Supreme Court has backed us up every time we're nice. Just be nice. And if it's time not to be nice, okay. But as soon as the cuffs are on, you turn the light switch back off and you go back to being nice. None of this is personal. Some guys take it personally. And they think being nice means you're not going to take anyone to jail. And that's not reality.
Interesting. Yeah, I always thought I don't know if I'd be a good cop, but I always thought of I feel like because I get along with everyone. At least I think. I try to get along with everyone. And I just feel like when you see, again, I reference cops, you see a lot of the interactions that I've always felt that people liked me, and I would think that people would see me with the badge, with the gun, with the uniform, and they go, this guy's, I've seen him on the street. He stops past all the time, will ask me how my mom's doing. He says hello to me. I've been arrested 10 times. Dude doesn't judge me. If I'm not doing anything, he's not breaking balls, and he's respectful, and we're cool with each other. And I feel like that is a possibility
right.
for cops.
That doesn't mean they're not going to jail.
Correct, but those are
So,
two different things. Those are you
and
just sitting there having a conversation. Like I feel
Right.
like I'd want to know the people in the neighborhood I was policing.
And that doesn't mean that everyone gets in the front seat of my patrol car.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely not. And not everyone gets handcuffed to the front. I will tell you, depending on, I dealt with a guy, this happened recently. The reason for his warrant, no, I'm sorry, the handcuffs had to go on the rear because his warrant was for something so violent. It's like, now I was still calm, chill, and cool with him. Hey man, I'm just telling you, this isn't my warrant. This is this other county's warrant. They want you. Okay, I get it. Okay, well, no, I'm sorry. This they're saying they're placing hold on you. This is just how it is. None of this is personal, man. And he still went to jail, nice and calm and cool, but the handcuffs stayed in the rear, and he never got in the front seat of my car. So it's all situational. You know, there's people who cops will put anybody in the front seat of the car. Nah. Some people
I feel like most of them put them in the back, right?
Typically, yeah, but with me, when I'm doing a traffic stop, you know, I want it to be as unintimidating as I possibly can. And what I have found is that for many people, especially people who are not from the area I'm policing in, having them sit in my front seat really calms them because they're in the front passenger seat. We're talking like two human beings. You know, we're not barking and yelling over the traffic noises and everything else, and we can just talk. And you know, the interaction can go from hey, here's your warning, have a nice day, to okay, well, you're impaired. Can we talk about this? And but it's all situational, and I think sometimes not to do this as a blanket statement, but I think sometimes a lot of officers out there don't read that situation correctly.
I do that with work. Sometimes I will have to interact with people who I'm told are, this person can be tough, and I accept the challenge. I'm like, they're gonna be my best friend by the end of this phone call. That's my goal, was just because I like to find out that if you talk with people normally, you speak with them, don't talk at them, don't talk to them, speak with them, talk with them, and you get along with a lot of people. And I think that's why I'm good with what I do. And I noticed that from how you're talking, I feel like if I was pulled over by you, I feel like the interaction, let's just say I got a DUI, and I was coherent enough to realize I got a DUI. I feel like, I'm like, you know what? This cop's been fair. I am actually in the wrong here. I'm not happy I'm in this situation, but he's just doing his job.
No one's happy when they get arrested. I don't need to pile on by being a jerk.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
But that doesn't mean I don't arrest people.
Yeah.
And people think, oh, he's so nice, he doesn't arrest people. Oh no. For career DUIs, well, I was on a dedicated traffic unit, and in less than 2 years, I made 335 arrests and 140 DUIs. And I'm not throwing that number out there to just. That was done through the technique I'm talking about right here, just talking to people. And I found drugs, and I found stolen guns, and I found stolen cars, and I found people with warrants for the craziest things. And it all just came from just treat them like a human being, just be nice. And it would amaze cops out there just taking that extra 30 seconds to just, well, hey man, you know, where are you coming from? Where are you headed to? All right, cool, yeah, good deal. All right, you know, and then you find out, oh well, you know, they're going northbound on whatever highway and they're headed to Florida.
I think you're going the wrong direction, buddy.
Think you don't know where you're at. So why don't you know where you're at? Because they're following the list of instructions that whoever gave it to them, because there's a duffel bag full of meth in the car.
Yeah.
But they don't know where they're at. We're building these questions, and just by being nice to somebody, it builds enough. It's like, well, hey, do you know where you are right now? Oh yeah, man. I'm in I'm in Virginia. No, you're not.
Do you ask? I feel like when I watch, again, just might as well be a damn cops TV show advertisement. Again, my interactions with police officers, they've always been great, and with the exception of one, which I'll share later. But I feel like you ask very simple questions a lot of the times. If you're suspicious of someone, you'll ask a question, and then you ask it again, maybe the same way, or then you'll ask it again, maybe a different way. There's a methodical approach to how you interact with people, because I don't have to do anything. They're going to trip up over their own words. They're going to trip up over their own story. Am I on to something there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will tell you, there's no amount of policing I can do that will make up for a criminal being stupid.
Because they all seem pretty dumb when they're doing dumb shit. Like I've seen 2 people be arrested and use the excuse, those aren't even my pants. I'm like, holy shit! I thought the first time I heard that excuse, it was bad.
I never thought I would hear a grown adult tell me that.
You've heard that too?
I have heard that. My first week in the jail, I heard a grown man say, "That's not my underwear," and I just went. I couldn't help myself. The Midwestern kid came out, and I said, "Why are you wearing other people's underwear, man?
Whose are they, pal?
Whose are they?" And he just looked at me, and the sergeant who was with me just went, "Did you really just ask that?" I'm like, "I just wanted to know whose underwear were you wearing." I don't know. Is this a lifestyle thing for you?
Oh
I never thought I would hear a grown adult say that, and I couldn't help my Midwestern sarcasm came just right out. Like, well, whose underwear are they, man? Like,
that's awesome. I love it. So let me ask you this. I like your approach. I feel like your interactions with most rational human beings, even if they've done something wrong, would go well. What would you change, right? If you were to be in a position where you could, well, let's just say this, just to the best of your ability, assess the overall state of policing. Are the majority of police officers like you? Again, we talked earlier about, it doesn't take much to give a profession a bad name, but how would you assess the overall state of policing?
I think we are ignorant, and that ignorance has transformed into an arrogance.
Police officers are arrogant?
I think we have become collectively arrogant, and I'm sorry if that sounds cruel, but I
sounds
think
honest.
We don't know what we don't know, and what we don't know is affecting other people. So instead of learning case law and code section, what we did was walked out of the academy with our batons and get back. And that's what we focus on every year. Pull the gun, fire the bullets into the paper target, get your qualification score, and then whip the baton out and get back. No case law, no code section. We're not gonna talk about when we can search a car, when we can't search a car, when we do need a search warrant, when we don't need a search warrant. So because of that, I hear Neanderthal statements like, "Well, if in doubt, type it out." And I just think guys who say that kind of stuff are such Neanderthals. It's like, wouldn't you want to learn the laws? The laws that you're expected to know. So when the public has a question like, "Hey, when my car is stopped, are my passengers seized?" And you don't say something really dumb like, "Oh no, passengers can walk away," even though the Supreme Court of the United States has made it very clear in multiple case laws, no, everybody in the car is seized. But if the cop doesn't know that basic, I have heard troopers, "Oh yeah, passengers can walk away." No, they can't.
Wait, hold on. I'm a passenger in a car.
You're seized.
And there are not only people in the car, civilians who think they have the right to just, oh, you know what? I wasn't driving. I'm just going to leave. And then you're telling me that there are officers who actually think that that's okay?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And they don't know. So the Supreme Court case that says passengers are seized is Brennan versus California. This is just one of many. Everyone in the car is seized. You just can't up and walk away.
And seize doesn't mean arrested. Seize means just stay here for a few till we sort this shit out.
You're in the car that's being stopped. In the United States, we do not stop people, we stop cars.
Okay.
When we're dealing with a motor vehicle, we're not stopping the driver, we're stopping the entire car. Pennsylvania versus Mims is another Supreme Court case that says very plainly, for officer safety reasons, we do not have to articulate why we're asking you to step out of the vehicle. If you don't step out of the vehicle and we ask you to, that is a charge. And I can guarantee you your state has a version of it. Every state does.
Say that one more time. If
a police officer asks you to step out of your vehicle,
okay,
he does not, A, doesn't have to tell you why. B, doesn't need a reason why. Pennsylvania
it's for officer safety.
Pennsylvania versus Mims has just flat out said, blanket officer safety, they don't need to spend the time to play 20 questions on the side of the road. If the police officer tells you to get out, you have to get out. He can control your movements. He can stop you from making phone calls because you're seized.
Interesting. That's one I'm always curious about. Well, I don't have to get out. And I'm thinking,
you do.
You're not under arrest. It's somebody asking you to get out. And I think we have a hard on in this country to try to prove we're right and you're wrong. We always want to be the person that's right.
Right.
And
so
I
the
know
police
the law
officer
better than you. It's like, no, you don't.
Right. And the police officer can have you step out and can tell you where to go. He can have you sit in his front passenger seat if he wants to.
So would you say, to the best of your ability, if you were pulled over in any of the 50 states, chances are that if an officer says, please get out of the vehicle, that you need to get out of that vehicle?
It is all 50 states, territories, and the military district of D.C.
Wow.
It is a Supreme Court case.
There you have it, folks. Comply. And it does, again, chances are you're going to get back in that car and drive away in most scenarios.
Yeah. And the same rule applies to passengers. Maryland versus Wilson. That applied to passengers, where the Supreme Court said passengers have to do as they're told. They may not have to ID themselves, but they have to get out when they're told to get out. They have to sit where they're told to sit, stand where they're told to stand, all of it.
So you don't have to ID yourself. So if you ask me for my ID and I say I don't know,
if you're a driver or a passenger,
I guess both. I guess I have to prove that I'm able to drive that car.
Drivers have to show the driver license on the stop.
Okay. Passenger does not.
It depends.
Okay.
It depends. In order to ID you, at least in my state, I have to have what's called articulable reasonable suspicion. Okay. But here's the kicker. I don't have to articulate it to you. I have
just
to
as long as you have it.
I have to articulate it to a judge. People think articulable reasonable suspicion means I have to prove to you on the side of the road that what I'm doing is lawful. And that's when people start getting slapped into handcuffs. I typically, will typically, just like I do with the traffic stop, tell you the reason I stopped you.
Okay.
So that you know why I'm stopping you, and then I ask you for your driver license. So let's just say I see people at 3 o'clock in the morning walking in between alleys downtown, and I know that there has been a rash of break-ins, and these guys match the description, and I'm looking for the one individual, and these guys look like him.
Okay.
And I can pull up, or one of the guys in the group looks like him, and I pull up, hey, fella, stop. I want to identify you because you look like the guy I'm looking for. And I have a picture, and I'll actually say, hey, the reason why I'm stopping you is there's been a bunch of break-ins. I'm not trying to sound crazy, but you look like the dude who's been doing it. We got him on camera. I need to see your ID. You guys are going to sit here for a while till we figure out what's going on, but I don't need to see your ID. But you look like the dude. So I'll even show you a picture in just a moment. And I've done that. When it was all over, I showed him pictures. Oh, wow, he really does look like me. You know, but I've also had it flip the other. I'm not going to ID myself. And then it turned out because he was the dude that I
Okay.
was looking for. It's like, oh, okay. Well, hey, we got you on camera burglarizing 2 shops down last week. I don't know if you remember that, but
We have you on camera. We have
we
your
got you
face.
on
We don't
camera.
need your name.
Yeah, we don't. So you can just go ahead and put your hands behind your back. We'll figure this out later. So it really all depends. But I really do try to approach it with, um, let's take this reasonable as much as we're able to. Now, I have a homeowner who says I got 4 people in this house and I've told them to leave and they won't leave, and they're back here for a third time. Okay, now the police are there. We go to the door. Police department, make yourself known by sight or sound. And they do, and we're in here. Yeah, everyone's hands are going against the wall. Everyone's going in handcuffs till I figure it out because you just burgled.
I love that word, burgled. You hear burglar so much, but the
I don't.
word
Yeah,
burgled is so funny to me.
and I just it's like no. I got 4 burgles in this home, and
Oh
the
my God.
homeowner. So say everyone's going in handcuffs till I figure it out.
How
It's
many
not
pairs of
personal.
handcuffs do you carry? Or do you carry a couple and then zip ties?
Um, I have zip ties in the vehicle, but I have 2 sets of handcuffs on me, and the reason why I have 2 is because bigger dudes sometimes need a second pair.
I've seen that before.
And I try to be sensitive to that of like, look, you're a bigger dude. I've got a second pair. We're fine. But I've got more in a bag in the car if I really need to. But, you know, it's all, again, it's all situational. So I try to, if I'm able to, in the moment, extend as much courtesy as I can to another human being while doing my job. But a lot of people, like we just discussed, they don't know the laws. And the cops don't know the laws, but they know they can pull their baton out and yell, get back, get back. And there's training out there and they won't go to it. There are companies that produce good, quality, solid training. And they're just trying to tell cops the rules. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. This is why you can't do this, and this is why you can do this. So that we're not out there violating people's rights, but we're doing the job as proactively as we can. And guys don't want to spend the money. I'm not spending $300 for a class. No, but they'll whip their baton out every year and do their yearly qualification of get back, get back.
But they don't. So there should be some sort of, you need to do this yearly. You need a refresher course.
You need a legislative update every year. You need to stay abreast of the laws. Um, I probably spend close to $1,000 a year on my own training outside of what is available by the state instructors. And a lot of these training classes are with police officers who are teaching code section, who are teaching case law. They have legal experts on hand, so I can ask my question. Oh, hey, you're an assistant U.S. attorney. Since you're here in the room, I can ask you my question. I'm from this state. Does this apply? Oh, you have case law to prove that. Okay, so I am right. I can't do that, but in this situation, I can. Okay, well, I have this issue where I had probable cause to search the car. Does that extend to the trailer? Oh, it does. Oh, how do I know that? I have this case law right here. And this goes back to the Carroll Doctrine. So I can sit there and talk to an assistant U.S. attorney and not just listen to the cop who is saying, "Look, I did this as a career in New Jersey and then in Florida, and now I'm doing." No, he's got an assistant U.S. attorney with him, and I've gone down to Florida where classes are being taught by Florida Highway Patrol or guys from Indiana who are teaching interdiction classes, and they're bringing case law and code section. These are the rules. This is you have to follow these rules,
How
and
do you remember all
you'll
this? There's
see
so much stuff that you would have
it's
to remember.
it's a lot of notes. I take a lot of notes, and a lot of it goes into I make it a part of my muscle memory habit of knowing this code section, knowing these case laws, knowing the case and statutory laws that govern my conduct as a police officer. when I'm engaging in proactive activities, trying to either prevent or identify crime and remove it. And I take that just as seriously as the guy who does his yearly whip out his baton and get back, get back. If he would drop the baton for 10 seconds and focus on case law and code section, and instead of going home at night and watching Netflix and drinking a White Claw, instead of doing that, if he would spend an hour and listen to some Supreme Court cases, they're all available online for free. You can listen to the arguments, you can listen to the opinions, you can read the opinions. No, I'm not trying to say that you've had a rough day, so no, they want to go home, they want to drink Netflix, they want to watch Netflix, and they want to drink White Claw, and they want to have their alone time, and they just don't, I think, take the job as serious as they need to be. These are people's lives that we're interacting with.
So
we need to do this job correctly, and we need to be competent in the laws. And a lot of times I see police officers that are really competent, pulling their baton and yelling, "Get back, get back." That's about all they're competent in.
Okay. So I appreciate that you do that. You go above and beyond, but you go above and beyond. See, here's the thing. You should be doing, police officers should be doing what you're doing. The fact is they don't. And because a lot of the times, you just need to meet the bare minimum. I've got to do this once a year. There, I'm qualified.
They do
Pistol,
their bare 20
rifle,
hours
shotgun.
a year. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is the fault on the officer, right? You can sit there and say, officer, you should do these things. Or is the fault on the governing body, whether it be
it's both.
Local?
It's both.
Do police is the interview process okay? Because I feel like you would uncover some of these things.
I think we're relying on technology too much. The 3 individuals I mentioned in this book, they were all polygraphed. Someone relied on the polygraph. These guys should have never been allowed to become cops. And I actually apologize for it in the book. I apologize to the public.
What's the polygraph? So before you become a police officer, I know what a polygraph is. That's not what I meant. Before you become a police officer, you have to pass a polygraph test?
You're supposed to.
Okay. What type of questions would one ask?
Questions that have nothing to do with a police officer's fitness.
Can you give me examples? And I'll tell you what, ask me questions, and I will answer them honestly. And then you tell me if I would be a police officer. Can we do that?
You're gonna get offended at some of these questions.
That's fine. No, you can't offend me. Let's go. Speed round.
Have you ever had sex outside of marriage?
Wait, hold on.
I kid you not. This is one of my polygraph questions.
Okay, hold on. Let me
what does that have to do with?
I'm married, pal. So let me make sure I answer this properly. I am married and I had sex with somebody I wasn't married to, or I had sex with somebody outside of marriage. Like just I wasn't married and had sex with a girl.
Right. See? It's such an open-ended question.
That's a weird question, and now I'm freaking sweating because my wife's going to listen to this and go, "What the fuck would you hiccup for on that one?" Okay, I don't know how to answer that.
Have you ever stolen anything out of a store?
Yes.
Right. When we were kids, right? We just put it in the basket. Our mother missed it.
No, I stole it, and I didn't know. I was holding baseball cards, and I got halfway through the mall, and I said, "Oh my God!" And I ended up taking them back to the store, but I did steal them. So. All right, there's a yes for that one.
Was that your intent?
No, my intent was not to. But
the question is, have you ever intentionally committed an undetected crime?
Have I ever intentionally committed
an undetected crime? This is how stupid these questions are.
What is an undetected crime?
Right. The answer for me would be, well, yeah. I mean, I'm telling you what. As soon as that trooper turned around, I blew that stop sign.
Did I ever commit a crime I didn't get caught with? Yes.
Right. Is that an undetected crime?
Yeah, that would be undetected.
Right. Have you ever? How many times have you been speeding down the road and there was no cop there, so you knew you could go 10 over.
Many.
This is how stupid these questions are. We rely on these to determine fitness for police officers. It's like, what? How about instead of using this device to ask really dumb questions, how about we do a really good background investigation? No, that requires work. And let me tell you something about background investigators. They don't like doing work. I know a couple. I love them to death. But God forbid they have to pick up a phone and call somebody. Nope. DQ that dude. That is too much work.
Oh my, this is interesting. So, okay, so let's, all right, I pass. I'm a cop. What are some things that the general public doesn't know? Okay, so I was always told there's a quota, right? For you have to give a certain amount of speeding tickets. Oh, it's the end of the month and I must have got pulled over because of a quota. Is there a quota?
I worked at an agency that had a quota.
And what happens if you don't meet your quota?
I have a friend who worked at that agency with me, and he was punished for not achieving the quota. He was denied training opportunities. He was denied personal growth in law enforcement. He was denied promotion opportunities.
We're talking traffic quotas?
Yes.
Okay.
We had to write, at this agency, 4 to 8 speeding tickets every night.
Okay.
Now, I cannot speak for other officers. I will speak for myself. I actually wrote legitimate speeding tickets.
And did you hit your quota by writing legitimate speeding tickets?
Very, very difficult most nights.
Okay. Do you have the ability to pick where you want to sit and post up? Or is it like, hey, somebody's going to this intersection?
In this case, at this agency, yes, I had the ability to pick. So what I did was I had a spot where I could, within about an hour, grab the first 4 speeders that came through, write the tickets, and then spend the rest of my 11-hour shift focusing on doing actual criminal interdiction, looking for impaired drivers, people with warrants, stolen guns, stolen cars. So I literally have had people fly by me doing 90 miles an hour and the lights never came on because that's not what I was focused on. And I know there's cops out there who go, oh yeah, but there was one time, I got a guy at 137 in a 55, and the Lindbergh baby was in the trunk with 4 duffel bags full of meth and $4 million and 60 million stolen guns. Okay, that one time stopping someone for an insane speed got you the Lindbergh baby. Great, awesome. But the rest of their career is nothing. It's just nothing but speeding tickets. Meanwhile, there's a group of guys out there that are actually trying to find honest-to-goodness criminals, and we're doing it consistently on a nightly basis. We're not doing it. I'm out there looking for honest-to-goodness, bona fide bad guy, not people late to work.
Ever wonder what happens to your stuff when you're gone? Yeah, me neither. Until I realized my family might turn my original release vinyls into coasters for my prized bourbon collection. That's where LawLaw.app comes in. With their cutting-edge AI, you can create a will, revocable living trust, medical power of attorney, and a number of other legal documents to help protect your assets. Heck, they'll even throw in a comprehensive user guide, all in one slick package. That's not all, though. They will give you unlimited edits and free professional support. So whether you decide to leave your dog your life savings or your cousin Carl a heartfelt, you are welcome for nothing, dickhead, you can update it at any time. Avoid probate, legal fees, and stress on your family. LawLaw.app has a variety of packages you can choose from to suit your individual and your family needs. So why wait? Get peace of mind and make sure Carl knows exactly where he stands. Visit LawLaw.app and be sure to use our coupon code PaddyWagon24 to get 10% off. Let them handle the paperwork so you can get back to not thinking about your inevitable death. There are sections of road, and this is anywhere, right, where you can look at your surroundings and go, I'm good to speed here. This is over the speed limit. I admit I'm breaking the law, but it's a straightaway. You can see there's no intersections. You know this, and there's this particular section of road I'm thinking of where you can see everything. The only way something bad happens is if you lose control of the car. You can see everything. There's no cops. There's nothing. So still fast, but I know that I'm okay. Now, if you're speeding in certain areas, it's a little different. But is there you've always heard, I think I set my cruise control to 7 miles an hour over the speed limit. Why 7? I don't know. I was always told 7. How fast? Is there a kind of an unwritten rule? Is it,
Depends on the state.
this is 55 here and it's 55 for a reason, so I'm going to pull you over at 57. Or is there, are there cops that'll pull you over for 1 mile an hour over?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I've met them.
I would laugh and I would say, you're a prick, but I broke the law, but I just wanted to be able to call you a prick. Can you call a cop a prick? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I may try that once.
I don't know why people think you can't say what you want to a cop. You can tell me to go have sex with myself if you feel like it.
I don't think I'll ever do. I don't think I called a cop a sneaky son of a bitch once. He got me.
I have been told to go have sex with my mother. I've been told to go have sex with myself. All right, well, cool. Well, here's your driver license back.
Yep.
And like I said, it's a verbal warning, no court, no fine. You have a wonderful day.
Yep. Because again, you're not taking it personal.
Not taking it
Person's
personal.
a dick. You're a cop. You have a badge. I'm going to tee off on you.
That's not my focus. The person who's upset about the traffic stop, if I don't see any indications of criminality in the moment beyond the speed, I don't want to stay on that stop any longer. It's a waste of my time. I'm looking for actual bad guy. I'm looking for a stolen gun, a stolen car, an impaired driver. I'm looking for bags of narcotics. Not you're late for work, so you're doing 30 over. And like I said, I can't tell you how many shifts I go to work and that radar doesn't even come on, man. It really doesn't even come on.
How does a cop justify? Okay, so you pull me over and I just verbally accost you for 5 straight minutes.
I'm just going to stand there and take it.
You are going to stand there and take it. But how do cops then take that and manipulate it into, so I was going to be cool to you. Now I need you to get out of the car, and now we have a problem here.
You just said it. You just said it. That's exactly what they do. But usually when people are upset with me and I'm looking at where I have a good quality stop and they're upset because they know they got illegal stuff in the car.
Yeah.
So I now have to bring them down, get them to my front seat, and start my front seat interview. A lot of impaired drivers get upset.
Interesting.
A lot of impaired drivers get upset. When I do DUI interdiction, a lot of impaired drivers get upset. So I need to calm them down so I can get them out of the car, keep them calm, get them in my front seat so I can start to assess what I'm seeing. And they're sitting right next to me, and I can start to go, okay, I'm seeing the signs, I'm seeing the symptoms of impairment, I'm narrowing down my drug categories because I have advanced DUI training, so I'm looking at which drug category I'm seeing. Okay, all right, I need to start the pre-screening, great, and then are you willing to do some field sobriety so I can make sure you're okay to drive tonight? And then we start then we finish the pre-screening, and okay, I'll meet you out in front of my car right there. I'll be right there. And then I grab my stimulus. I have a little soft blue light that I use. It's soft on the eyes.
Okay.
And I start the field sobriety.
And that's hey, follow the tip of this pen, follow this light.
Yeah, horizontal gaze and nystagmus, walk and turn, one leg stand. And then I have advanced tools at my disposal that I can use if I suspect a different type of impairment, a different drug category, or if you are unreasonably unable to do the walk and turn and one leg stand, which I frequently come across people that go, yeah, man, I had a really bad back injury. I really struggle. Okay, that's fine. I have other tests I can do. And whether he really injured his back or not, we just go ahead and skip the walk and turn one leg stand. I've got the other tests.
We've got other things
that will show the impairment.
Okay. Yeah, because the eyes, I think, is the giveaway. The eyes they're off.
The eyes don't lie. Yeah. I mean, when I have a flashlight up and your eyeballs or your pupils are so wide open, dilated, it's like, well, do you coming from the eye doctor at 3 o'clock in the morning? No.
They gave me those eye drops, sir.
Yeah, they're high. Yeah.
Shit. Okay. So, okay.
That's just one example, but I think that gets lost a lot with a lot of police officers where I think they bring their ego to the job, and they get upset when their authority isn't respected. I guess is the best way I can describe it. So they, and again, this is not all cops, but I do see this with a small group of police officers where instead of just taking the extra 30 seconds to bring that person down and try to figure out why are they upset, I will tell you, most of the people I have found who are screaming at me on the side of the road either had something illegal in the car, and I mean really illegal, stolen guns, lots of drugs, like hard drugs, or they were impaired. Normal people don't scream at cops. Normal
True.
people, even the people who go, I could have swore the light was yellow or orange or it was cool. And if I have figured out that this person is not involved in criminality, I want to move them along.
Okay. What is the one trait you see in officers that are not on the up and up? If you, and this is an opinion, right? But if you would take 5 officers that you know personally, 5 officers that have committed a crime or did something immoral or whatever it is, what would you say is the overwhelming trait with them, whether it be a personality trait, financial problems, anything? I mean, what connects these officers?
From what I have seen with these individual officers that I interacted with, they were all narcissists.
How'd I know you were going to say that?
And
I
they
knew you were
also
going to say
had
that.
real bad problems with the truth.
Well, that's number one for me with a narcissist is dealing
I mean,
with reality,
we're
dealing with the
talking,
truth.
yeah, we're talking pathological, narcissistic, pathological lying. I mean, when this whole thing happened and as it began to spiral out of control, when we found out that the post investigator was friends with the police chief who stole the cocaine or tampered with it or whatever he did with it, um, to read his investigative notes, and that's why I put them in the book. I put his investigative notes in the book because they read like an Agatha Christie novel mixed with Jason Bourne, mixed with Mission Impossible, mixed with a Ray Bradbury yarn. It's all over. I mean, one point, this guy had me working for the CIA. I mean, it's like, dude, what planet do you live on? I don't know how this guy was a retired police chief, let alone a post investigator, but he goes so off on the deep end. At one point in it, he flat out says he attempted to manufacture evidence with another law enforcement agency, and they wouldn't go with it. But because in his mind it must have happened, it happened, and he's typing it. And you read it, and you're just going, you
Okay.
admit to attempting. How much of a narcissist do you need to be to say the words, I attempted to get an agency that had nothing to do with this cocaine to manufacture video evidence for me, and when they refused, I'm now documenting that they refused to do that. How much of a narcissist do you have to be? And that's really what I started to realize. And as I talk to other cops, are going, every time we've dealt with a bad cop, everywhere you go, the narcissistic tendencies, and it's I look back on it now. This happened 3 years ago. I look back on it now, and when I look at these 3 gentlemen, the first thing that pops in my brain is perp. That's bad guy. It's perp.
Yep.
But I missed it because when I looked at them and my brain went perp, my eyes saw the badge, and I missed it. And it wasn't until he was caught by another officer and we found false statements and the cover up and the bad chains of custody that began to sit there and go, this is bigger than this right here. This has been ongoing. They have been doing this for a while. They have been doing this for a while, and they are comfortable doing it. They're so comfortable doing it. They have such connections. They know they can get away with it. And I will tell you that that man is still the police chief down there.
Okay.
He was able to commit at least 3 felonies that we can prove. Nobody touched him. But people are losing their careers because they bought his story and they're now being told, you have to retire. Come on. And it's unfortunate that the people he sold are now having their careers put in jeopardy because they believed him. But he is a very, very good liar. Um, I don't know how to describe it.
Well, let's hold
Not
on.
not not to bash on bicycle fans, but Lance Armstrong, right? We
Just
can
full
now
of
look
shit.
we can now look back and know 100% what a liar looks like. But how long did he fool people?
How long did he have people in his corner? That guy I defended,
Right.
and then I
This
was like,
police
damn, this son
chief,
of a bitch.
for 3 years, this police chief had people in his corner, and they're now regretting it. But they can't take it back.
Okay.
Their careers are now on the line, right along with them. And it's a shame that um, he was able to do that. But when you're dealing with someone who's that good of a liar, he fooled me for 2 years. I had no
Okay.
idea he was stealing from the evidence locker. I had no clue.
So
I should have known when none of my cases were going to court. I should have known something was wrong. I was just
there's
happy I wasn't going to court. I thought people were just pleading out.
because you don't do what you get a date, right? You arrest a
I get a
person.
subpoena for a court date, and I don't, I
And
barely remember. Like when I go to court, I have to like go play body camera and pull the report up and sit there and
so
go,
then you go, oh, okay, I remember this
"Do
guy.
I
I
remember
remember
this
this person.
guy? I don't remember this guy." Like I'll see a subpoena, I'm like, "I don't remember this." I mean, I write so many reports. It's as a supervisor, like right now, I cleared 5 reports today.
Okay.
Um, I'm not done with them. That
Okay.
was after a 12-hour shift. So when I come back into work tomorrow, I now have to come in early because I have 2 reports dangling that's got to get done because I just didn't have enough time to do them. It's like, so I don't remember all this stuff, and this is why we write reports. And people think, oh, the person remembers me. I don't remember them. So then, a year later, I get a subpoena in court. I'm like, I don't know who this person is. And then I get to court, and I'm sitting there going, why does this guy look so familiar? And I'm reading my report going, okay, now I remember this. So it's like I wasn't even thinking, like I was just moving on. So I didn't realize my cases weren't going to court because I had so many other cases going to court that I just assumed it all worked out in the end. Because we do not. People think cops like laser focus in on a case. We don't.
Well, you've got
We
so many things, like you said. Yeah, you're right. When it's me, I can go, well, I've had 3 speeding tickets in my life, and I remember those 3 interactions. And if I was to go up to one of those cops, like, hey, do you remember? He'd be like, no, I don't remember you at all. Why would I remember you?
right.
I've written 1,000 of these things in my
Like
life.
I wrote a report Sunday night, and today when I came into work to cover down for somebody else, another supervisor, I got asked about it. And I'm like, sorry, I don't remember that. I got to go read it. I wrote
Okay,
that. I wrote that report Sunday, and so
it's
much stuff.
already out of your
It's already out of my brain. I had to go read it and go, oh, okay, now I remember it. Okay, this is what happened. So, no kidding. There we were. We were patrolling, and we saw this open door. And okay, but I had to go read it, remind myself, like, what were we even
I
doing
did
on
that
that
too.
street?
I live out of my inbox and specifically my sent items, and I'm like, yes, okay, now I remember this. Okay, what's
Right.
your
And then
question?
I read it and I'm like, okay, what's going on? Hey, we just wanted to know when you were in the house, when you were clearing the house, which was clearly abandoned, did you see anything? No, it just looks like more squatters. It's typical stuff we deal with at 3 o'clock in the morning. The owner wanted us cleared. Okay, cool. I appreciate it. What's going on? Why was
Okay,
a CID lieutenant asking me that? And then I found out there's been stuff going on and she had a specific reason why she asked. Well, I don't even remember. It's like she had to remind me. I'm like, okay, yeah. Well, because you cleared a house. Like, yeah, we cleared like 4 houses Sunday night.
okay,
Which one?
okay.
I interacted with, I don't know, probably 30 people Sunday night. I mean, we have coming into my city 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 state highways. 3 of them are U.S. highways.
Okay.
I got probably 30 to 40,000 cars coming through in a 12-hour period. I don't
That's a lot of
remember
traffic.
everybody I'm interacting with. Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm going. So I had to. She goes, "Hey, could you just go read it real quick and remind yourself?" She even knew. The CID lieutenant even knew. You're not going to remember this. Go read your report so you can come back and talk to me and answer questions. Because we do so much.
Okay, so I want to go back to this. Was it police chief?
It was a police chief.
Okay, but I want to ask. Okay, so this is like a hypothetical, and I don't know if police officers do this. Obviously, some of them do, but there's a scenario that I know runs through some people's heads that aren't police officers. So I will say this honestly, as I told you before, I'm an honest person. So I'm a police officer. I'm chasing somebody on foot. They throw a bag into the bushes, catch them, do their thing. We go back. I look, I find a bag of cash. Now, not being a police officer, I think to myself, what's the harm in keeping that cash? What's the harm in keeping some of the cash? Right? It's evidence, so I've got to say there's evidence. So I'm going to. But if I pocketed some of that, I've got to feel that it's enticing to go. Oh my God, I'm holding $10,000 cash in my hand. I don't have to report this on taxes. I could pay off a bill. I could go buy something. I could go do something with it. I'm underpaid. I fucking, excuse my language, chase these people all night, running around. I had a gun pulled on me last week. Nobody respects me. I'm getting yelled at. What the hell? What's the problem? I take a little bit of cash. Okay. So I get it. It's illegal. I get it. It's immoral. But what's the problem with that? Help me understand and help other people understand that I've had these conversations with. Like, man, I would keep a duffel bag full of money. What's wrong with that?
For me,
because your answer is the right one. I want you to know that I'm admitting that I'm doing something wrong here.
for
I'm
me,
not admitting criminal, but for you, what's wrong with that?
For me, too many people will know. I will know.
You'll
one
know.
too many.
That's too many. Yeah, I like that one.
Um,
How does it come to be that you're caught? Right. So $30,000 in a duffel bag. I keep 15 of it. How does somebody know?
I believe that at the end of my life, I will have to answer for what I have done. And I will do that in front of my Creator. So that's the other person who's going to know. I realize it's not
Okay.
a person, but
I
don't want to have a life lived where I know I compromised my integrity.
Your integrity. Now,
people don't understand what integrity means. To me, integrity means doing the right thing even when no one else is looking.
When no one's looking.
Here's the thing with the cash. I have no idea that cash could be marked.
So that's my question. I'm not saying
that may have been from a buy bust from 6 months ago.
Is it a sting?
And because I didn't log it, I've now disrupted a 6-month case that some TFO, some task force officer was running in 2 states away. And I just made his case harder. But if I log the money and he goes, oh, it filtered out. I get a phone call. Hey, man, where'd you get that money? Oh, it came off of Running Man. Yeah, man, Running Man. Dustin Hoffman. And he was Running Man, and he threw the bag, and I picked it up, and it had all his money in it, and I logged it, and I secured it, and I sent it to Department of the Treasury, and they came back, and now we're on the phone. Okay, what is Running Man's name? Tell me who Dustin Hoffman is. Okay, Dustin Hoffman is Joe Blow, and Joe Blow has been arrested all these times, and I was chasing him for this. Okay. So that money is a part of a sting operation we ran here, and it's now filtered out to the system, so now we know that the money we're using 2 states away is, okay, this organization is a lot larger than what we thought.
Okay.
That's why to me, I don't know what that money the connotation of that money could mean. It could mean something as that simple as that is more than just money.
So you
Here's
answered
the
my
other thing:
question the
if the
moral
money,
way. You answered it the moral way. My question to you, which actually thank you because I wasn't even thinking it when I asked that way. My question is when somebody does that, when I do steal the money outside of, hey, this money was part of a bigger operation, how is it that people get caught?
they spend it.
Really? That's it? Like, it's not like a criminal going, bullshit, I had 30 grand in that bag. And they're like, well, dude, there was 15 recovered. We're going to look into this.
Sometimes, as Charlotte Mecklenburg police will tell you recently, sometimes bad guy puts up enough of a stink. I mean, that's how the gun trace task force got caught. They were listening to the jail phone going, where's the money? Usually they spend it. They spend it, and it looks bad.
So I have a new motorcycle, or I have a new lawnmower, or I have something that's expensive,
funny
and I get caught that way.
That's what started to peak us into this police chief. One too many motorcycles.
It's motorcycles.
It's like, hold on. We know how much you make.
And it's public record. We know how much you make. You're right.
You're not getting any money from the VA. You're not getting a part of your pension. I'm getting a part of my pension. I can't afford that bike. How do you have 4 of them? And you're selling one. And you're going to go buy another one. Whoa. How do you have a brand new truck? How do you have this nice house? It just, they spend it. They use it.
Okay.
And people start to ask questions.
That's okay. Red flags right there. Okay.
How are you constantly going on vacation when I can barely afford to fly home?
Okay, so you've seen this multiple times. Now you mentioned multiple officers, right? Now, are these people working together?
The assistant chief purchasing rifles, purchasing millings to build his own ARs. He had a tractor brake. He just left it there and bought a new one. Hold on. You have a $15,000 John Deere brake, and you just went out and bought a new one?
Instead of getting it fixed.
Instead of getting it fixed? Like, one of his trucks broke. He just went and bought a new truck. I'm going, huh? He had a Caterpillar diesel, and when something happened with the I don't even remember what it was, but the motor was still fine. He just bought a whole new backhoe. You left a $30,000 motor in there? He just left. I wanted the motor. I was like, can you sell me the motor if you don't want it? No, it's junk. No. The equipment failed. I understand, but the Caterpillar diesel there's nothing wrong with that diesel. That still works. That's a good running motor because I've got a Chevrolet Suburban that will fit in. I just got to get the motor mounts for it.
Wow.
I baffled my mind how money was spent, how they would eat out every night. We look back on it now, and it's kind of crazy. I look back on it, and I'm going, wow, I should have seen this. I mean, it was these guys lived lifestyles that baffled me.
And this person's still employed. These people are still employed.
One of them retired. The other 2 are still employed.
But they will see no jail time. Everything's clear. They're good to go.
We have, I think, 11 months left on the statute of limitations.
What is that? How many years?
4 for what they did.
Okay. So
I think what they're trying to do, based on what we're seeing, they're trying to outlast the statute of limitations so that they can't be touched.
So I want to know how far up this corruption goes. Okay, so
we know it goes all the way to post because the post investigator physically and using his abilities as a post investigator assisted in the cover-up.
Okay. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to call a timeout here for a second. So investigations, there's an order in which things happen. Okay, so using my scenario, I steal money. I have a bag, $30,000. I steal cash. Hell, make it interesting. Cocaine and cash. I take it all. Okay. I turn a little over to evidence. No, there was no cocaine. Nope, there was no 15 grand. Okay. Suspect goes, no, this dude stole money. He causes a stink, as you say, bitches and complains enough. So it's like, all right, man, this dude's admitting that he had more money, which is worse for him, but he's being honest. Okay. So he starts to just not shut up about it. All right. Walk me through, give me an abbreviated version of the steps at which an investigation begins. You hear things like internal affairs, there's police unions that get involved in all this. Walk me through how an investigation is supposed to go out. And then on the end of that investigation, I end up in handcuffs. So walk me through how it's supposed to work.
I'm sorry that I laughed.
Nope.
Internal affairs, that word to me is a joke.
Well, then there we go. Then this is I'm going to get a good answer to this. But let's assume for this scenario, it's
the way
not
how it's
a joke.
supposed to work.
Yes, how it's supposed to work.
Someone who is not associated with the case in any way is going to investigate it and is going to look at it and is going to determine if anything happened. And if
Now,
there's
I'm sorry, is this person with the department?
Could be.
Okay.
But should not be in any way involved. If the person is either a part of that division or knows any of the people involved, they don't need to be doing this.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so there's an investigation that starts.
Right.
Okay, continue.
They're going to look at everything and quickly figure out something is wrong. So things are wrong. We're not accusing anybody, but you're going to the house, and you're going to stay there. In this state, there are no unions. It is against the Post Act. We are not allowed to collectively bargain. So hope you pay some association to pay for a lawyer. Other than that, you're on your own.
Okay. So that's a good thing then, right?
I disagree. Not having unions is bad.
Wouldn't a union defend? So I'm not a union guy. When I say I'm not a union guy, I'm not saying I'm against. I'm not in a union, but I know stories of where unions. So right, what's the point of a union? To protect the employee. Will a union go above and beyond to protect an employee when there's a wrongdoing?
The media will portray yes. The reality is no.
Okay.
And if you look at the reality of what has occurred in the past 50 years of policing, you will see unions sell out their cops. And I don't mean sell out. I mean, you did this. You're on your own.
Okay.
You paid your dues. We'll get you your lawyer, but you're going to jail, dude.
Okay. And
they cleave that cop from the herd.
Okay. So no unions involved in my case because I'm in your state, internal affairs, or whoever conducts this investigation, they find out there's wrongdoing.
So they're going to send people to the house.
When you say the house, you mean jail?
No, they're going to send you home.
Oh, literally send you to your house. Okay.
You leave your badge, your gun, your equipment, you go home. We'll tell you when to come in. At that point, when you come in, they're probably going to read you a Garrity statement. What that means is this is administrative. We just want to figure out what's going on. Nothing you say here can be used against you in court. Unless they've established already that it's criminality, then they're going to read you Miranda. Okay. Either way, depending on which one they want to question you under. At some point, they're going to figure out you stole the money. If you're under Garrity, they're going to say, look, what'd you spend it on? We need to switch to Miranda. Or they may just say, look, we're going to stay under Garrity. Tell us what you spent it on. You're going to be fired, but you're not going to jail.
Okay.
So let's talk.
Miranda, you're going to jail, right?
If you're being read Miranda, they want to take a cop to jail.
Okay.
More than likely in this state, They're going to read Garrity. They would have pulled your finances and went, okay, so very nice Challenger that you have out there in the parking lot. It's nowhere in your finances. So where'd you get the money for the Challenger? Oh,
Okay.
well, my brothers, sisters, aunts, dogs. Would you see what happened was, no, where'd you get it? Where'd you get the money? Or, hey, man, hey, really nice Harley. What is that? Harley number 6? Cool. I get it. You love the electrical lights. That's sweet. Yeah, man. And that's a brand new Dynaglide out there. Hey, you converted to the Dynaglide. Yeah, that's bike number 7. Where'd you get the money? Because nowhere in your finances do you have the ability to purchase 7 motorcycles. Or, hey, man, this is Armalite rifle number 32 in less than 3 weeks. You're buying rifles for you, your kids, your wife, your wife's brother, your dogs. I mean, you've turned into Ted Nugent. I want my wife to have a gun. I want my dogs to have a gun. I want a gun. What are we doing here? Where'd you get the money? Because nowhere in your finances does it show you purchased all these rifles. So, wow, I used cash. And where did the cash? And now we're rolling
Now we're
down.
getting where we're going, right?
Now we're getting where we're going. At some point, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to make a recommendation to command staff. I can guarantee you, if you're caught stealing, the recommendation is you're going to be fired.
Okay.
At a minimum. Many police departments in the South, it's about 50-50 whether they're going to charge and fire or just fire. As soon as you get on the other side of the Mississippi River, on the western side of the Mississippi River, I haven't seen a situation yet where they didn't charge.
Okay.
Once they figure it out, they're charging the cop.
Okay.
The culture is a little different on west of the Mississippi than it is east of the Mississippi River, and I have noticed that. I've also noticed the culture north of Virginia is different than the culture south of Virginia.
Okay.
There's no breaking line west of the Mississippi. I noticed they're all the same. Cops getting charged from California to Montana, from Alaska to Arkansas. They're charging the cop. Southeastern United States, they're probably going to handle everything administratively and move it through that way, but it's about 50-50. New England, they're charging the cop. They're just straight up. They're going to walk you out in front of God and everybody. They'll probably have the news there waiting for you.
Okay.
It's if they can figure out how to lock up your friends and take them too, that they know about it. In the South, if you had rank, you may be allowed to resign in lieu of termination. I have seen that. But the way it's supposed to work, they're going to get rid of you, and that's pretty much it. And then they're going to tell Post what happened, and Post is probably going to revoke your certification, and then they're going to, because your now certification is revoked, anywhere you try to go work, they're not going to hire you because they're going to see your certification is revoked. They're going to ask why. You because you stole. Thanks, but no thanks. We really appreciate you, but good luck to you in your future endeavors. That's how it's supposed to work.
Okay. Now, without giving too much away from your book, what went wrong with the scenario you outline in your book?
He was able to illegally fire the 2 cops who caught him. And actually, I wasn't one of the cops who caught him. It was another cop who caught him. But he was able to illegally fire the 2 guys who did it. His city attorney backed him up 100% until a lawsuit hit, and they got a real attorney in there who looked at everything and said, "Please, dear God, tell me you didn't do this." And then they lied about it to another agency, and then they lied about it to Post, and the other agency and Georgia Post bought it all, and bottled it up. And because the police chief knew the Post investigator, they were able to concoct a 10-page story of pure fantasy and weirdness that even when the Post counsel read it, knew not to put it on my Post record because it was so weird. They knew. The Post investigator, for some reason, I do not know why he did this, decided to send it to some random attorney who didn't even work for me. He sent it to an attorney that had handled the wrongful termination. That attorney was kind enough to forward it to me by email, which now made it public record. So now the 10 pages were public record. Somehow the news got a hold of it and they went nuts with it and said, whoa, this is fantasy novel stuff. Where'd you get all this? Because, and then it kind of went from there. And that's when everyone, I think, collectively got a tighter grip on their horses and went, I think these three individuals have gone off the deep end, and we're just now figuring that out. And suddenly, Post did not want me in front of a hearing, didn't want to talk to me, didn't want to talk to the other officer, didn't want to call any of the witnesses, and they just no action the whole case and hoped I went away. And then they decided to take it a step further, and they put the reason for termination, which didn't match the actual reason for termination. So the two officers were fired for at-will termination. I don't know how it happened with the other officer,
Okay.
but I know what happened with me when I was walked into the room. There was a bribe. And I was told if I accepted the bribe, the police chief who had just been caught tampering with this evidence would favorably mark my Georgia Post record so that I could remain in law enforcement. And this interaction was recorded, and my question to him was, so if I don't do this and take this voluntary resignation that you're offering as this bribe, along with some other things, you will tarnish my Post record. And he said, yes, that he would illegally tarnish my Post record. I think his exact words were, you're leaving me no choice. So he knew that as a police chief in the state of Georgia, he could say whatever he wanted and he would be believed. I don't think he was preparing for me to sue the city. I don't think the city was prepared for that. I think it kind of woke the city council up to, um, we may have gone a little overboard. And I get that from when the city settled out of court. They sent a letter to Georgia Post begging Georgia Post, and I use the word begging, that's what they were doing, to change the status on my Post record from terminated to voluntary resignation. That has never happened in the history of that I am aware of. And when I talk to other cops, they said that has never happened. When I show other cops that letter, they go, that is a hard back. That is we have screwed up so royally. We now need out of this. They were begging Post to stop the file review, but the police chief knew the Post investigator. And so because they were friends, they were able to keep it going just a little bit longer. And when the 10 pages got sent to that lawyer and I read them, that's when I decided to write the book. I knew I needed an answer. And I figured at that point my law enforcement career was over, so why bother? And I wrote the book, and I did interviews, and that's when the stuff about the quotas came out, and that's other things that had been going on at that department that many police officers had walked away from and not told, and I just don't want to work there anymore. And we came out of the woodworks when the police chief lied to the news and said there was no quota. You had cops showing up with policy going, there it is right there, it's in policy, there's quota.
When you, right, you take an oath as a police officer, And there's kind of some unwritten rules, I guess we'll maybe call them, for unwritten rules or whatever this term is for this. But you hear of the blue wall of silence. You hear of don't just keep your mouth shut, John. Don't say a word, John. Why do you got to mess something up, John? Just let it go. Pretend you didn't see it. Have you felt pressure from a safety standpoint? Have you felt any sort of pressure? I guess you understand what I'm saying.
There were death threats, yes.
Oh, okay. So we'll go there. That's yes, that's what I was asking.
I was told to take my ass out of the state of Georgia before I got.
Before you got. That's when you know somebody means business when they say got. Right? Two gots next to each other, not
Right.
good. From
other police officers.
So other officers, not necessarily higher ranking officers, but maybe a peer.
That's what hurt the most. It came from a peer.
And so then that tells me maybe this is more far reaching than just this chief.
You know, and the blue wall of silence, I think, is misunderstood. Things happen on shift that I am not going to come home and tell my spouse and tell my children and tell the public.
Okay.
That may be perceived by people as, well, that's blue wall of silence. Something happened on shift, and there may be a reason. I'm protecting an ongoing investigation. I'm protecting a police officer who I know is undercover. So I'm not going to come home and tell people, yeah, I arrested a cop today, along with 4 other people in the room, because I knew that police officer was undercover, and in order to keep his cover, he had to go to jail with everyone else. And then once we started getting them in jail and processed and everything else, we were able to, the jail was able to siphon that dude off, and we were able to figure out how to do this. That is not a bad thing. I think people misinterpret when we are being silent to protect the public. We are being silent to protect the public in what we're seeing. I mean, do you want to know about every single rape case out there?
No, not
right.
at all.
But is that us being silent?
No.
You know,
I get what you're saying.
Paul Harvey is famous for saying that the police officer must know everything and not tell. They must know where all of the sin is and not partake. So I think there's a misunderstanding with this blue wall of silence. But I think a small percentage of police officers, less than 0.5%. So we're talking, around 800,000, 900,000 cops in the United States. I think is roughly. I mean, I now, before I put my foot in my mouth, I want to go look it up.
Because I always interpreted the blue wall of silence, and then again, it's like, it's a phrase.
So not including federal law enforcement, it's right under 1 million. It's around 900,000. So
okay.
So less than 0.5% misfit the badge. So you're looking at about 3,000 to 6,000 cops. Well, that's a really big number. Okay, that's still a better average than you'd find among clergy.
Yeah. Yes, very true. Very true.
So we could compare what happened to me with Enron. How many guys at Enron? Just 5. 5 dudes were able to destroy a company? Well, yeah, they created a culture. And there it is. They created a culture. 5 guys thought they were the smartest dudes in the room, and narcissists, lying, cheating, stealing. I mean, these guys were shutting down power grids in California to do weird stuff. You see things like that and you go, well, the outrage when it happens among law enforcement. Okay, well, where was the outrage in 2007? It wasn't law enforcement. It was the banking industry.
Right.
Nobody went to jail. And I mean, let's be honest. Did anyone really care about that? And that was a much higher percentage of fraud on a global scale than anybody had ever seen. And they got bonuses. So we're talking about 3,000 to 6,000 guys in a profession, less than 1/2%. I mean, that's mitigating risk. But if you compare that number to corruption levels around the world, we're doing pretty good.
It's not too bad. Percentage-wise.
It's not too bad. So you really don't have the blue wall of silence that people think is there. It's just we're so short-staffed. We're so short-handed. We're so busy. It's not personal. It's just, man, I got my own career to think about. I'm sorry this is happening to you. But
I've got bills I've got to pay, and I've got a family, and I've got kids I'm trying to put through school.
Right. Now, as it unraveled, I can tell you these cops started cutting themselves off from this guy. I mean, nobody. I've now heard from multiple cops. Nobody's talking to this guy. Nobody's talking to the chief. Nobody wants to have any interaction with this post investigator. Nobody wants to talk to them. I was just on the phone the other week with a police officer, and she just flat out said, "I don't talk to either one of them. I don't interact with them." She goes, "I used to work for one of them." She goes, "No, nope, nope, absolutely not. Now that I've seen this, now that I've read your book," she goes, "Unbelievable." I said, "Well, that's just one person." She goes, "Oh no, this is the entire area. Nobody wants to interact with these guys right now because now we're realizing I think these guys lied, and the pictures they see, the story they painted doesn't match the real evidence." And cops are now seeing that and going, "You guys did this. Okay." So it's starting to happen, and I'm seeing where the distance of the creation of distance of like, we're just not going to do business with you now. Why? Because we can't. If you did this, oh my. And if you went to this extreme to basically defame these two guys, come on, you'll do it to anybody. And I have seen police officers now leave these agencies. For some reason, why these three agencies, the agency that it happened at, and the two agencies that got involved, for some reason, people are now leaving these agencies because they're going, "We're next." If they can lie so easily with total impunity, I found out one of the sergeants who had spoken to that police chief has actually now been put on the Brady list.
Wow.
That he's lied in court. So I'm seeing the association that a few cops had with what's a police chief. Who wouldn't believe a police chief?
Who wouldn't believe a Catholic priest, right?
And the majority of people looked at it and went, "This is a little too fantastical. I'm finding this difficult to believe. No offense to you, Mr. Police Chief, but a few who were just as narcissistic, and that's who he latched onto, other narcissists. And that's one of the things I've kind of learned when I'm dealing with corruption. Your narcissism is number one, and narcissism is really hard to detect. They will make up rules if they need to.
What do you hope to accomplish with your book? Is it your story? Is it this story? Is it, hey, this stuff is out there? Is it a combination of everything? Like, what do you want from this?
Mostly to tell my side. I never got an opportunity to tell my side and to present evidence and to show what really happened. So the only medium left to me was to write a book.
Well, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you
I
did. How
we
does it
can't.
feel? Do you feel better? Because at the end of the day, and I can tell you firsthand, not being able to share your side, or, I don't know what you want, be the bigger person where you got to keep your mouth shut, that eats at you. That takes its toll. How did it feel to finally get it out there? Was the actual writing therapeutic as well?
No, not for me.
Not at all. It wouldn't have been for me, but I'm just curious.
I felt like I was reliving it. I felt like I was, as much as I tried not to, I felt like this would have an impact on the entire profession, and that people were going to judge us. And like I said, I'm actively employed in law enforcement now. That people were going to pick up this book and go, "This is all cops." And that's why throughout the book I continue to stress over and over and over again, this is not the majority of the profession. This is the less than 1/2 of 1%. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. And I think the real crime that we're seeing in America is when the news can sensationalize for likes and attention to make an agenda. I think I'm hinting at a moral code for society. I think we've entered an era of fraud. It's in sports, it's in our finances. You have lots of videos out there on YouTube about instant karma and Karens getting caught.
Yeah.
I think I'm presenting a moral code, and that no matter how you feel about something, there's just a moral code we operate at that everyone can agree with. no matter what religion or what faith you are. Everyone can agree with this. And I mean, and I'll admit it. Part of my family is Episcopal, part of my family is Catholic. So I was raised with this very strict idea of moral code. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. There's
Yeah.
just don't lie, don't steal, don't cheat. There's just some things you don't do. And when you do it, you're violating a social moral code that should exist. And when it's a police officer, I think it hurts society. And I think that's what got me is I knew people were going to pick it up and they were going to judge the entire profession. The profession of law enforcement is there to help. I believe law enforcement is a good solution for the crime that is occurring. I believe it has evolved in the way it was supposed to evolve, and it is continuing to evolve. But I think when we have police officers, ignorance is our biggest enemy. Like I was saying before, most cops I meet every year, they pull out the taser, get back, get back. They pull out the baton, get back, get back. But if you try to present them case law or codes, no, I don't want to hear all that.
It's too
I,
many numbers, too much talk.
I've been doing this 32 years. I don't want to know all that. I know what I learned in whatever 32 years ago when I went to the academy. Yeah, but things change. Laws change all the time.
All the time.
All
All the
the
time.
time. I have met police officers who will adamantly misquote their own state's code section.
That's crazy to me.
And I'm just, you can read it. They won't read it.
Well, listen, I'm glad you got your story out there. One of the things that I love doing with podcasts is just I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. Some stories are funny, some are sad, some are you learn something, but I think it's important. I think it's important for accountability, right? We try to teach people, I try to teach my kids accountability, and I feel that you're owed some of that. And, I hope you get what you're looking for.
And I don't think I'm owed. I think the public is owed.
Absolutely. Well, you're owed something. Right. You're correct. The public is owed.
I think, injustice happens. I can understand this was difficult for me to go through, but I'm and I want to say it again. There are many good officers that have quit law enforcement because of the lack of accountability towards appointed leadership and elected leadership. And this book is really for those cops. They weren't out there trying to get their own personal justice. They just wanted the public to know that we are bound to the same laws that everyone else is.
Yeah.
That
100%.
if we steal, we're going to get caught. There's going to be repercussions. If we do things in an immoral or unethical manner, that we're supposed to get caught. I think people, to me, law enforcement, and I think people misinterpret this, law enforcement they see as a separate portion of society, and I disagree with that. I am simply performing the full-time duties of that which is the responsibility of every citizen of this country.
Yeah, I've always viewed it as it's just a community. We're all part of the same thing here, and there's different jobs and different professions. And yeah, it's ingrained. It's just you guys are part of us. It's not. I agree with what you say. Like it does. I can see how people view that as, you're a civilian and then there's a police officer, and all you're doing is enforcing the laws for the civilians. You're just somebody that's there saying, "Hey, this is right, this is wrong. Here's what you do." So I think you're part of everything, right? You're definitely not an outsider.
But we make ourselves outsiders.
With stuff like this, yeah, it's glad you shared your story because it's and like you said, we'll repeat it. It's not a lot of people that are doing this, but it's enough to cause a stink, right? It's enough to make some people think that every cop's a bad cop. There's no good cops; they're all bad, and it's unfortunate. But these are the types of stories that make news stories. Right? It's not about the cop that's doing good. Yeah, you see some of those. But the last few years, it's been all about, how many bad ones are out there? And, again, you can pitch any story and sell a story any way you want to get your agenda across, which is, at this point, to get clicks. How many clicks can I get on this news story? Well, I can spin it this way and I'll get a hell of a lot if I make everyone think every damn police officer out there is the bad guy. So... Well, listen, man, let's do this. What like I said, I'll get your link out there. We'll definitely get it posted on the website. We'll definitely get it out there where everyone listens to our podcast. We'll get it out there on our socials. We'll include the link. Any final words, thoughts, anything? Tell us again the name of the book and where we can find it.
The name of the book is Blue Line Rogue. It's available on Amazon. You can also go to bluelinerogue.com. and you can purchase the book through there. Right now it's on Amazon. My publisher is putting it on Barnes & Noble. So it will be, but you can, it's ebook or you can purchase it in paperback or hardcover. Barnes & Noble is next. So, if you're not a Kindle fan, you prefer Nook. I do know that the publisher that is coming.
That's very cool.
I would like to know how your stout was. I'm curious.
It was, you know what? It was good. I overbought for St. Patrick's Day, so I like to kind of mix in seasonal beers, and so I am over the stouts. But as long as it stays a little cooler here, I'm okay with it. I generally don't drink beers like this when it gets warmer, but it was good. It was a good beer. I'm always glad to have a couple, but I'm over it now. It's time to start getting some spring beers, which then means it's. We're in Pennsylvania, man. It snowed today. It was 75 degrees, I think, last week, and then it snowed today. So.
Well, I mean, I remember certain stuff I just didn't want to drink in the summer because it was like drinking milk.
That's why I got to get rid of this stuff before it gets too warm. Because I just think of Will Ferrell in Anchorman. Milk was a bad choice, and he's just sweating his ass off drinking milk.
Oh man, that is wow. So I'm curious, seeing the flag behind you. Do you celebrate James Joyce at all?
No, I do not.
Okay.
This was a wedding gift. My friend Eric found the Irish flag with my family crest on it. So.
Oh wow. So I know there's like where I'm from, there's a small culture of Irish living in the city of Anchorage, and they take James Joyce pretty seriously. And I'm like, didn't know there was a day for him, but okay.
I mean, listen,
they're like, oh no, this is our number one export besides beer. And I'm like, I'm down. And they'd shut down Fifth Avenue and they'd set up beer tents, and it's.
I'm not that guy. Yeah, I know there are certain people that follow a lot of these different things, but yeah, definitely not me.
Yeah, I'm just some kid whose family is growing up between Fairbanks and Arizona, so I'm like, I don't know what this holiday is, but there's beer and food, so let's go.
There you go, buddy. There you go. Well, listen, man, I've enjoyed having you on. Thank you very much for talking with us. Thanks for sharing your story. Definitely gonna do my part to help get this out there and definitely get some downloads for this book. I'm an old school guy, man. I like hard-covered books. So I'm gonna get myself a copy, give it a read, and then like I said, I hope a lot of other people do it. Continue your book tour or whatever it is you got to do to get this out there, because I think this is important stuff that people need to hear. So thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. We'll chat soon, man. Have a great night.